Well, welcome to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. I think I almost said cryptid as fuck.
They can be cryptid as fuck.
They definitely should be if we're going to feature them on the show. It's
Yeah, they
in the
gotta be
name.
cryptid. Yeah.
Oh, it is Friday, and I am Alanna, and I'm sorry.
I'm Kelsey, and I am
So
sorry that I'm
bad.
not sorry.
Oh, it's been a week, so we're here.
Yes.
Some of us are slightly drinking, some of us have a slight headache.
Yes.
Try and guess who is who. That won't be that hard, I'm sure.
No, that's why my room is also like extra dark.
Oh, yeah.
And
Mine
stuff.
looks very bright in comparison.
It's okay, my laptop brightness is turned down to as low as it'll go. It'll be sad when I have to start reading my notes and then the page looks super bright, but that's okay. I will manage.
True. Well, I could go first. I do have something to learn us this week. Learn us real good.
Teach me, Alanna. Teach me real good.
I mean, I guess we could say what episode number it is. It's 76.
76.
76. I was like, good. I always like to know that I didn't get it wrong, because that one time.
We can count.
We're calling it 76. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
I do have some ideas for our 100th. If we could get 100 listener stories, imagine. That'd be the pinnacle.
Yes,
100.
all we would need is 100 listener stories between now and episode 100.
Or 100 listeners.
Hey, we have more than 100 listeners.
I mean, you're right. Overall, we've got episodes.
I don't know how many reoccurring and consistent listeners we have, but we have over 100 listeners.
They're like the people that go to McDonald's, but they don't like to talk about going to McDonald's. They're like, I listen to you, but I don't want to admit it to you or anyone else. Just kidding. A friend of mine recently was like, oh, by the way, where can I find your podcast? Where can I find your podcast? And I was like, thank you for asking. We are on Spotify.
Yeah, just Google us. Something will come up and you can listen to it.
Oh, for sure. But it's like, it's good to know, because I was like, what do you listen to podcasts on? Because it is weird to know that like some people exclusively listen to us on YouTube, like Grand Moff Twerkin.
Yeah.
Our buddy Josh there, who does give us feedback, and I appreciate it, because I had talked to him recently and he was like, don't worry, I'm still listening, I just, quiet or whatever. And it's like, that's fine, I get it. Usually when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm quiet and don't directly necessarily comment on them, but sometimes I will, especially on good pods, because you can comment on each episode. Oh, there's a bug. Yeah, and it's nice to have like direct feedback. Sorry, still have a fruit fly problem somewhat. But yeah, it's nice when you know that people are listening and they like it.
Yes, we appreciate feedback. That's always nice.
Mm-hmm. And I get not everybody has a listener story, such as like a spooky paranormal or a true crime adjacent story, but I think we would like almost any kind of listener story.
Yes, tell us a story about something funny that happened to you, or
sure, funny, weird, strange, like a funny like coincidence, or what do I usually call them? I don't believe in coincidences, they're synchronicities, like that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I love that.
Or deja vu. There's some good stories about deja vu.
Glitch in the Matrix. My sister said she has a sleep paralysis story, so I will have to pressure her to
Ooh,
type it up. It'll only take
Yes.
you 5 minutes, guys.
Yeah,
We
or
will
weird
correct your
dream.
grammar. No.
Alanna
Sorry.
will. I'm not an English teacher. Wannabe.
Edited for clarity. No.
Be
I'm not
like,
a bitch.
and
I
then
try not to correct people's grammar because I know that's really annoying.
mine is just copied and pasted, and I'm like, this sentence makes no sense. I'm gonna read it verbatim.
You write them yourself, you're like, well, this makes no sense, but I made it make no sense. No.
Right? We'll see
Yeah.
how my notes are today. I only had I didn't have time to reread through any of it.
Mm.
And some of it was really long quotes that I didn't even read the whole thing, so that would be fun.
Oh, I have a problem with those. I'll be like, what the fuck is this? Why did I include this? You said this terribly.
Yeah.
I do
We're
not
like,
compute.
this whole quote is a paragraph long. Let's only read the first sentence. Cool, include it.
It's probably fine.
I'll just read
Okay,
it live on air the first time as I'm reading it out loud.
cold reading all the way, like
Yeah.
Amanda does with Wine and Crimes. Oh, whatever they do for Gossip at the Corpse Cart, which is
Uh,
a fun one because they only do it like once a month and it's more like the weird news headlines. I would be totally
mm,
into doing like a bonus episode a month that would be like a weird headlines, confessions sort of thing like they do, or and that's why we drink does a 1 month listener episode on the first of every month. So
ooh,
that could be cool
fun.
too. Yeah, it's like your bonus. But whatever, yeah, Amanda's always like, I cold read these. I don't know what happens in this new story. Like our listeners sent it to me and it's gonna be amazing. And then you're like, oh god, here we go.
Yeah, especially if listeners are sending it in. That's pretty good. To be fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and a lot of times they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I heard of this. It's like something weird that happened in the news." I kind of have something like that. I read something today. Things I learned this week. We need to get a musical interlude for this.
Like the evening news bulletin. Breaking news. We
It's like
now
I
bring
like
you to
Office Lady.
Alanna's recording studio.
Angela and Office Ladies always calls it a sting because they'll be like, fan mail flurry, and then it'll come in like fan mail flurry or whatever. There'll be
Nice.
special sounds. Okay, so this was from news from Edmonton, from our local region.
Ooh.
Um, this piece caught my eye. This article I read today, and then it was an opinion piece on something the Edmonton police force recently put out as like a
Oh, okay.
bulletin. Yeah. So it starts out like I am just gonna I copy and pasted, and this is me quoting this article. It starts. I am 89.9% sure the man in question has white skin. He has a 95% chance of having blue eyes and a 90% chance of having blonde hair. There is a 50% chance the man is European. The white man is anywhere between the ages of 15 to 60 and he weighs anywhere between 91 to 200 pounds. This man is bad. He is a criminal. We need to find him. Close your eyes and picture the man's face. What do you see? And then it just says,
What?
yeah, exactly.
So confused.
My question to you is absurd. Absurd, sorry. But this is exactly what the Edmonton Police Service asked Edmontonians this week, except they gave you a face, a black face. Dun, dun, dun. It basically went, the man Edmonton police want likely has black eyes, has a low chance of having freckles, and has a high chance of having brown hair. No other information was given, but yet a face was plastered all across social media and news outlets.
Okay, that's confusing.
Yeah, it's like they really didn't have a lot to go on, yet they went out and made a police sketch sort of anyway with the computer.
Weird.
Yeah. I'd never heard about this, by the way, up until I read the article, but
yeah, I didn't.
No.
No.
It goes on. On Thursday, after intense criticism, the Edmonton Police Service apologized for the potential the portrait had to harm the Black community and that the release was not an acceptable trade-off in the pursuit of justice. The apology is lengthy and goes to great lengths to justify the rationale of investigating officers. However, a closer look is required for us to understand why such portraits are racist and to understand the dystopian nature of this incident. Woof.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, it's pretty not a great look. I would agree, I think. Like, we are on the, look out for a white woman, a white man. You're just like, okay, great.
Yes, thanks for
population.
They may or may not have eyebrows. They may or may not have a mouth. Have you seen this human? They could have ears. Like,
that's what I remember writing down a quote I liked of yours when I was editing, where you were like talking about not being able to find information on the person you were covering in whatever capacity, and you were like, yeah, I'd be like, okay, I think they have a mother. Yes, they have a mother. It's mentioned or something. It's just like, yeah, they probably do, but yeah, it's so hard to find.
Yes, I know exactly what one that was. So I'm like, I think I quote her later on, and then I was like, is the mom around? Because all I could, at the beginning, the first half of the story is all about just talking about, I think, the dad or something. I was like, does he have a mom? Wait, does he?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like, is the mom in the picture? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like, of course he had a mom. Like, well, yeah, exactly. Is she in the picture?
That's what made it funny to me.
Does he have a mom? Yes, he has a mom.
So, to conclude, well, I only quoted part of the article, but it got the point across. But lastly, it said that the Edmonton Police Service created this face with the help of Parabon, a US-based company that uses DNA to create portraits of suspects. Portraits that can cost up to $10,000.
Using DNA?
I don't know exactly, but that was something in the article where they said, like, they really didn't have anything to go on for the suspect other than maybe a little bit of DNA from something. I don't even know what he was a suspect in. The article was more about the fact that, like, they put out this bulletin to be on the lookout for this person with no other details other than, like, they might vaguely look like this black man we show you from this amalgamation. It's like, what?
Weird.
Yeah, wasn't good. And finally, it said the methods the company uses are, by their own admission, not accurate, but instead approximations. In addition, geneticists have slammed the practice, such as Adam Rutherford, who said, you can't make facial profiles or accurate pigmentation predictions from DNA. This is dangerous snake oil. Yikes. Yeah, I don't know. Like, is it worth putting out a bolo for someone that you haven't even seen yourself? Like, a be on the lookout for this person that we don't know what they look like?
Yeah. Really? That's a little weird.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have a witness that's at least describing details or like anything like that, to just basically make something up and then be like, oh, here's a random stereotypical person, and then be like, look for this person. And if you, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, because it goes beyond being like, okay, the eyewitness saw like a white male, this height to this height. You get kind of a whatever age range and like weight. You get kind of a vague description because like you get that from an eyewitness. But this one, it didn't say like where they got
Weird.
this information from, how they determined it would look like this person, or what they were really suspected of, or you know, from
So
what I could get out
strange.
of it. Yeah. But anyway.
Fun.
That's all I had for really internet stuff.
I learned nothing. I refuse to be taught by the internet. No.
It wasn't a very fun fact. I'll try to pick something more fun next week. Sometimes all you get, you're like, true crime headlines, great.
Oh,
Just
that's all right. It was informative. Something we didn't know about before. DNA, like, profile sketches. Weird.
Yeah, first I've heard of anything of that nature. But anyway, we're not doing true crime this week. We can do something still spooky, but perhaps less murdery and criminally.
Yeah. I have a Gordo.
Hi, Gordo. Oh.
Hi, Gordo.
All right. I am ready for your case. Not case. I'm ready for your lesson.
Yeah. I have quite the lesson.
Nice.
This is something that is kind of always interested me when you start learning about witches or wizards and stuff like that. I feel like it's one of the first things that they always do in like scary movies or anything, is kind of like the fear of bringing people back to life, or like zombies and stuff like that.
That's true. In every form. There's from Pet Cemetery to World War Z zombies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's definitely been played around with for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about necromancy.
What?
Necromancy.
Necrophilia.
Yeah, I was going to say, not to be confused with necrophilia. What are you, Ed Kemper? No. Ooper.
Oh. I heard people talking about him today. Anyway. I won't go into it. No, I haven't seen the Dahmer for Netflix thing yet either. My brother was asking me, and I think I told you, I was like, I've had enough Dahmer recently.
I don't think I'm gonna watch it because I don't love the reenactment, like real life kind of dramatized, watching like dramatized versions of stuff. I'd rather just watch a documentary where you sit down and like interview detectives and like victims' family members and people that were there. I'd rather watch like that kind of true crime stuff than like a dramatized reenactment of stuff.
That gives the victims and stuff more voice. Plus this one I do hear is just like really gory and just like really and like some of the victims' families were like, oh, I didn't even know this was happening, and then here I am being depicted in a movie, like the exact like speech she gave to the courtroom or whatever. And it's just like, that's not very considerate that people are still profiting and like rehashing these people's pain without really like being like, hey, are you cool if we do this?
Right? Yeah. But I'd rather
what can you do?
Watch something like that. So I don't think I'm gonna watch it as much as I love Evan Peters.
Gotta love me Peters. But no, he's very good. But it's like, ugh, she's a lot. Anywho, I'm sorry.
So necromancy, getting into it, I other than just bringing people back, I guess, I didn't know anything about it other than probably what's in movies,
which is probably totally accurate.
Soup's accurate.
Exactly. I get all my information from movies.
Right. So obviously it's an occult practice, with the person who performs the necromancy being called a necromancer. Like, it's pretty logical.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this little part was from Wikipedia, saying that the practice of magic or black magic to communicate with the dead or by resurrecting for the purpose of divination, which we've talked about before. Yeah.
Damn right we have. That was on a regular
Yeah.
episode, right? Okay, good.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
If
Forgotten
not, just
already.
join our Patreon.
Yeah.
No, it was 66. It was episode 66.
Oh, not
10
episodes ago.
Ooh, yeah, I just consulted my handy dandy notebook.
Wonderful.
So I can actually find something in for once.
Perfect. Yeah, so resurrecting for the purpose to communicate, or for the purpose of divination, or intending to foretell future events, the discovery of hidden knowledge, returning a person to life, or using the dead as a weapon. And
these are just all the things.
Yeah, kind of like
uses.
necromancy. There's a lot. It's kind of more of an umbrella term, I'd say, as so it can encompass all of those things. And it's also sometimes referred to as death magic.
Ooh, that's creepy sounding too.
Right. And
gotta love a good mancy though. You always hear that in Dungeons and Dragons. Everything's
mancy.
Dunamancy this and whatever mancy that. I'm like, ooh, fancy mancy.
Fancy schmancy. So I think this is always your favorite part. You like knowing where words come from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Etymology, baby.
Yeah. The word is adapted from the late Latin necroantia.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I didn't look up pronunciations for anything. So
all good.
Who knows?
I wouldn't know anyway.
I don't know how you'd look up the late Latin pronunciation of words either. So.
Oh god. Right.
And it said that this was actually a loan word from the post-classical Greek necromantia. It's just spelled slightly different.
Okay.
Instead of like a C, it's a K. And then it ends in a TEIA.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely heard the beginning of the word too, because you've heard like it in Necronomicon. Yeah,
from the
heard it in a couple different words. That's cool though.
And so the necromantia from the post-classical Greek is itself a combination of the word necros, or dead body, and mantia, or divination. So together, it basically means divination from the dead or dead body. Yeah.
Is it okay? That totally tracks. Is it weird that I'm now thinking of the Fringe, where they would just temporarily resurrect dead bodies to talk to them, which also seems to happen in Dungeons and Dragons. Man, it's very creepy in the Fringe though, where they had the one character,
the eyeball,
lost. Her eyeballs were just working independently of one another. And
so gross. I just got a shiver down my spine. My favorite though will always be in the Brown Betty episode, I think, where Walter is like that candy. Yeah, where he's the candy inventor and he has like the singing corpses and they all come up and they're like singing. Do you remember that?
Oh my god, I feel like I can't picture that, but it sounds
so
amazing.
Funny. Yeah, they go into his lab and these. Yeah.
Anyway, you guys should watch The Fringe. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Pat was talking about Lord of the Rings, which has the guy who plays Walter in it, and he literally called him like Walter, and then he was like, but you know, he's not Walter in this show. And I was like, yeah, but now you know him as Walter.
Yeah.
Because he's
love
so good
him.
at that character. Just like super genius, but also kind of bumbling old man who loves candy and smoking weed. He's amazing.
Right? Sitting in the back of a car saying something super smart and then just going, oh, I just pissed myself. And you're like, oh, God.
Yeah, he was one of those characters like Hermione where they're like, oh, we need to explain something that isn't like too super implausible. We'll just have Walter say something smart sounding, and with his slightly British accent, he'll sound so academic that no one will question it.
Right? It'll just be like, can I have a milkshake? And you're like, okay.
I mean, Leonard Nimoy's on the show. It's so legit.
Yeah. It is. So yeah, divination, like from the dead body, or divination from the dead. The word Nekia was used in the Odyssey, which I'll talk about, I think, kind of towards the end, during which Odysseus visits the realm of the dead souls and is the oldest literary account of necromancy, which I didn't know.
Oh, that's wow.
Kind of makes me want to read the Odyssey. Which...
yeah, all that Greek research we did too made me be like, God damn, Greek mythology is cool but weird. Yeah. Fascinating.
So, communicating with the dead is most commonly associated with witches and witchcraft, and the tales of witches using necromancy for power, or I guess to gain power, or for insight, appear in a bunch of legends from multiple cultures. And this was partly due to the belief that witches work with spirits that can include the spirits from humans, animals, plants, as well as the earth.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
All of the spirits.
All the spirits. Summoning spirits, apparitions, or using visions in order to get insight into the future or to accomplish some otherwise impossible task. That's kind of the purpose of necromancy, I guess.
Interesting. So it's not just to see that loved one that you miss so much and you're trying to bring back like for good.
It's actually that I feel like that's the way a lot of horror movies bring it into the plot, but for the most part it was something about getting insight, answering questions, getting help with something.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like you could maybe get some closure if you didn't have the chance to ask them something in life and they were gone suddenly.
Yeah.
That's cool. But like, yeah, you definitely see it in horror and sci-fi and stuff. I'm like, I feel like I'm thinking of the episode of The Fringe or something where someone's like, oh yeah, I'll just keep collecting body parts from different people because I need to bring my loved one back from the dead and use her like a marionette.
Oh, that dude. Yeah, the guy that...
yeah.
Doesn't he change his body into... Oh, there's that one. I always think
it's
of
kind
the
of a
guy
Frankenstein,
yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah, she died in a car accident or something, and she was like a teenager, and he... Oh, marionettes are in the basement.
Just replace all your body parts one by one, and then you'll be whole again. And you're like, no, that's not how that works.
So creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, when I think of that episode, there's an episode either before or after that one where the guy turns his body into the time machine. And that every time I think of the marionette, I think it's the same episode, and the guy that was the time machine is the guy that did that, and it's not. It's a totally different guy. But I always think he's the one that did that. But
okay, I do know what you mean, and I think I do confuse them also.
Yeah.
having had you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a lot of guest actors and similar themes and stuff. It's like the X-Files. They have some repeating kind of monster of the week type episodes. Yeah.
So some cultures considered the knowledge that the dead could have or possess as being unlimited, so that they could know basically anything.
Oh, really?
And yeah, which is why people would want to bring them back. So if you believe that they have the answers to everything and you bring them back, then you can ask them any question.
True.
And then the ancient Greeks and Romans believed that an individual's shades, or I think that's like similar to what is it, like a soul. All I think of is the magicians. I think they always talk about somebody's shade.
Yes, I've heard it in regards to like the soul or the essence of a person.
Yeah.
And used in the name of a warlock, Malcolm Shade, in the Shadowhunters, which I always thought was a cool name. Okay. Malcolm Shade?
Yeah.
Malcolm Fade? Something like that, yeah.
So they believed that individual shade could only know certain things, and that seeking their counsel or asking them questions would be based on things that that person could only have known when they were alive. So the ancient Greeks and Romans didn't believe that like somebody was all-knowing after they died.
Okay, yeah, because I haven't heard that in a lot of traditions, that you're like all of a sudden now you're omnipotent like God just because you're dead. It's like, no. Maybe you get to know like some stuff about your life in a lot of traditions. Like you do the whole life review, life flashes before your eyes. You're like, oh, these are all the things I sucked at and I got to get better at or whatever. But yeah, that's interesting that you're just like all of a sudden
you know everything.
Yeah, you know everything. You know all the answers to all the true crime cases. That's what I hear a lot of podcasters say, where they're like, if I could just ask one question when I die. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's really plaguing you, isn't it?
Right.
But I get it. Especially if that was like someone you loved. You'd be like, oh my God.
Oh, I'd be the people that like threw away their life and became obsessed with it and are like being interviewed by the thing, that are like the family member that went crazy. That'd be me.
Oh, totally. Obsessed. Gosh. You can't imagine that happening to your family member.
Right.
Anyway. Sorry. I made to bring it down.
Early necromancy was related to and most likely evolved from shamanism, which involves calling upon spirits such as ghosts or ancestors. And this version of necromancy addressed the dead with a mixture of high-pitched squeaking and low droning. Kind of channeling them, I guess.
Cool. I was like, yeah, that's some specific chanting or whatever.
Yeah, and some droning. Necromancy, just in history, was practiced in ancient times among the Assyrians, the Babylonians, Egyptians, Greeks, Romans. It's also documented with the Chinese and the Etruscans, which I had to look up again, and I remember having that word. It's like Italian.
I feel like I've heard Etruscans or Etruscans, possibly. Yeah, I think you're
good. It was considered by the ancient Greeks as a way to descend into the underworld of Hades, and they also said that necromancy eventually evolved into the act of summoning the departed into the mortal world, and that this was often done against their will.
Well, I guess, especially if they're in a good place, so to speak, in the afterlife, and then you like pull them out, and you're like, I just have a few questions. And they're like, really? I was just about to get like a massage from Channing Tatum or something. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be great. Sign me
up. But then I think, oh yeah. Beat me, Grace. Do you remember in the Magicians? Did you read the Magicians books, the trilogy?
Yeah, but I don't remember most of it.
They had this weird sequence when Quentin has to go down into hell, and he ends up having to go through this weird slide. They make this makeshift slide on this sandy beach, and he slides down through it, and then he's scooting on this slide, and it's like he gets almost like stuck. And they're like, oh yeah, most people slide down, but you seem more alive than most. And it's almost like he's like sliding down on like this, what do people do on university hills? Oh, let's slide on our like cafeteria tray. Like it's just so informal, and he's going down into the like afterworld just to talk to somebody, and then like he gets down there and they're all, it's like this old rec center where people are like playing board games and Scrabble and like ping pong and stuff, and some of them just look really bored. And I was like, that's probably one of the saddest little depictions I've ever thought of for like this kind of, it almost seemed more like a purgatory than anything.
In the show, I remember them doing that with the bowling alley. Was that when they go and try and get Julia's shade back or something, and they find her and Quentin
probably
as little kids in a bowling alley?
Because in the books, when she goes down there, that's when the Julia character learns that she doesn't have a shade or a soul anymore, because nobody can see her down there. And that's when she finds out that she's basically like half a god, because that trickster god that looked like a big fox raped the hell out of her. Yeah. It's really an interesting series, you guys.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, I digress.
So the necromancers were also described as alchemists or natural philosophers.
Yes. Alchemists, that came up in like some things I was looking at too, and I was like, ooh, is that considered part of the occult? I love it.
Yeah. And those interests included not only chemistry and medicine, but also the quest for eternal life. I feel like that's why probably necromancy kind of went with it.
Right. Eternal life, life after death. Yeah, it goes hand in hand, I guess.
Didn't really get into it all, but there was just so
we
much
did some alchemy on our other one, on our Patreon.
I think that was a Patreon,
Yeah, I stayed away from it too. Otherwise, I was like, I'm going to fall down an alchemy rabbit hole, and we've already done this.
Yeah.
So that was so fun.
Yes. Necromancy arrived in European, like, medieval magic via the Arabic texts that they got, actually. And scholars slowly translated these into Latin during the 12th and early 13th centuries. And the word necromantia was sometimes used to translate the Arabic word for magic.
Oh, that's fun.
And in medieval Europe, in medieval Europe, the act was associated with black or harmful or antisocial magic, and therefore, it was condemned by the Catholic. It was condemned by the Catholic Church as well as Israel, strongly prohibiting it, so you weren't allowed to practice it.
Okay, well, fair. It sounds pretty powerful.
Yeah.
There's a reason they're the dark arts and Voldemort is the bad guy.
Right? Yeah, defense against the dark arts.
Yeah, and he basically came back from the dead. He was all scattered around except for pieces of his soul.
All the Horcruxes.
Yes.
So because people believed that actual resurrection required the assistance of God, they viewed the practice of conjuring demons, they viewed the practice of necromancy as the practice of conjuring demons who were actually taking the appearance of the spirit being summoned, and it wasn't actually them. And
I mean, I think you'd run that risk anytime you try and call something up that you don't, from a place you don't know about. Yeah.
And because of this, the practice became known as Malfisium. I don't know.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. and therefore it was condemned by the Catholic Church.
Of
Interestingly
course.
enough, of it being condemned by the Catholic Church, there was lots of stuff, including this on Wikipedia, that I copied, saying practitioners were often members of the Christian clergy, and though some non-clerical practitioners are recorded, in some instances, mere apprentices or those ordained to lower orders dabbled in the practice. And they
Wow.
were, yeah, they were connected by the belief in the manipulation of spiritual beings, especially demons, and magical practices. And these practitioners were almost always literate and well educated. Most possessed basic knowledge of exorcism and had access to texts of astrology and of demonology. Clerical
Damn.
training was informal and university-based education rare. Most were trained under apprenticeships and were expected to have a basic knowledge of Latin, ritual, and doctrine. This education was not always linked to spiritual guidance, and seminaries were almost non-existent. This situation allowed some aspiring clerics to combine Christian rites with the occult practices, despite it being condemned by the Christian doctrine. So, yeah.
Wow.
They were like some of
Wow.
the biggest groups that were studying it and practicing it were the people that were condemned to do it.
Yeah, it sounds weird at first, and then you're going through all the things, and it's like, well, it would have to be the people that are educated and can read and
Yeah.
all this
Got
stuff.
alone
And
Latin.
yeah, I guess it stands to reason that if you can study something, you could turn against it and want to study the opposite of it or the dark side of it or whatever. That's so cool. I mean, like, that's so interesting.
Yeah, we'll get there's a bit more about maybe why specifically they're the ones doing it.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Intrigued.
So the practitioners were described, as I kind of said, as skilled magicians, using this kind of repeats like a few times just from different sources, but they each had a little bit different information. So they could use consecrated circles in desolate or a melancholy spot, kind of like a graveyard or abandoned buildings. Some things even said like the deceased's house. So they may do a consecrated circle in order to protect themselves from the anger of the spirits of the dead.
Damn.
So
I mean,
they may,
yeah.
right?
You don't want to pick up some ghosty followings.
No.
So it's like playing with fire, playing with a Ouija board.
Yes,
you know,
100%.
Or something you don't understand.
They could use or may use wands, talismans, candles, magic circles, symbols, and speak incantations. They could make sacrifices to the spirits, which didn't just mean like animals or anything like that, or even people. It could be just animal blood, it could be milk, honey, ashes, flour, or salt that could be placed in jugs or sprinkled around the circle.
Sounds sort of ceremonial or...
Yeah, those are all things that are, I'd say, are like high value for like food-wise.
Yeah, even salt is used in different like household spells and stuff. I have a little glass jar that I just have filled with some of our, what was it, pink salt, because I read that it can be good for banishing, I think it was bad energies or something, and I was just like, okay, I can do that. I got some pink salt.
yeah, pink Himalayan salt.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Looks kind of cool too. Just in a little dish.
Wow. A necromancer may also wear the deceased's clothing or consume foods that could symbolize lifelessness and decay, such as
Ew.
Yeah, I was like, what does that even mean? The examples the site gave was unleavened black bread or unfermented grape juice. Both of those sound terrible.
That's confusing. I have
Yeah.
heard or read the term unleavened or unleavened. I don't even know how to. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure I've read it, but
Yeah, I'm like,
unfermented grape
grape
juice.
juice. That just sounds
Well,
painful. I hate grape juice anyway, so.
but fermented grape juice, wouldn't that just be wine? So if it's unfermented, wouldn't it just be grape juice?
Grape
I'm
juice.
very
I have
confused.
no idea.
Okay, moving on.
So some may even participate in mutilating or consuming corpses as part of the ritual,
Oh, oh no.
which could take out. So the ritual itself and all this kind of ceremony that they go through could
Yeah.
take hours to days or weeks
Oh
before
my
it
god.
finally finishes, with the eventual summoning of the spirits taking place at the end. Um,
Wow.
yeah. The something called fumigation, which is basically just like breathing in fumes from a fire. Or the
Oh.
act. Yeah. I had to quickly Google it because I was like, I don't know what that word is. That was
I've heard
basically
of
what
it
I
in
got from it.
terms with like getting your house
Bugs.
fumigated for
Yeah.
bugs. Yeah, exactly. I was like
Yeah.
not in this context.
So doing that or the act of burying images are also both found in astral magic and necromancy. Uh,
Oh.
there's a number of Christian and Jewish influences that appear in the symbols and in the conjuration formulas that are used in the summoning rituals.
Interesting. So it's been like influenced by a
There's
few different
yeah.
religions.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes in and there's no real, I'd say, like written down like kind of thing. Everybody has their own way of doing it.
History.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it is so kind of funny, I just noticed from pop culture and just like watching Supernatural, it seems like every time someone's doing a demon sort of banishing ritual, which is different. I know we're not talking about that
Yeah.
exactly, but it seems like they use a lot of uh Catholicism, and then like that uses a lot of like Latin, and then
Yeah.
you did mention Latin, so I was like, interesting.
Yeah.
This is the language of the ghosts, or no?
Right. They only speak
Yeah,
Latin. What about the new
yeah.
ghosts, huh?
Do
They
they
don't know
speak Pig
Latin.
Latin?
Pig Latin.
That would be easier to learn.
Speak emoji exorcism now.
All I know is from Sam saying "A Spiritus Sancti" on Supernatural.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
One noted commonality among practitioners of necromancy was usually the use of certain toxic or hallucinogenic plants from the nightshade family, such as black henbane, Jimson weed, belladonna, or mandrake, usually to make magic salves or potions.
Damn.
Yeah.
I know we've mentioned belladonna before, because
Yeah.
I was tempted to mention that that's what I named my D&D character, because she's poison. No. It's a poisonous plant and it's a cool name.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all that deadly nightshade and stuff that you can like find in
Yeah.
nature. That's the kind of shit we're talking about, right? That's cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't get into anything really like too much because I kind of wanted to touch on everything.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
So
there were numerous rabbit holes you probably could have fell down.
yeah,
What is
Gordo's
your eyes
Gordo's
just
being
went
weird. He's asleep,
I
but
know
he
you were
just
like,
like
what?
uh.
Gordo.
So this is talking about or most of this next kind of section is about the ritual or like aspects of it.
Mm,
That
okay.
was a cat snore. I don't think anybody heard that other than me.
No, I don't
He was
think
like,
I did. I love that. My
and now his
dog's
little
like,
feet are
I'm
going.
just gonna sleep in the room as long as you're sleeping.
Oh,
And then he settles in.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so they were saying that when someone died young or premature, like they died at a young age, or even people that
Mm.
died from violent deaths, uh, the corpse was thought to retain a specific amount of unused vitality or power. That was
Oh,
believed the using of specific parts of the corpse as ingredients or charms kind of became an important technique just in witchcraft in general. Um, they've talked about
weird.
the problems with people desecrating graves and stuff because they believe that, like, oh, if you die from this, your left thumb is this, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I think they even still have problems with it today, but necromancers preferred to summon the recently departed as it was believed their revelations were spoken more clearly. Um,
Hmm. They're like
at
closer
first,
to
I
the veil, maybe.
sort
I
of,
don't
at
know.
first, I didn't really understand what that meant, but in one of the examples in literature, I think it kind of goes over that, so I won't say much
Oh.
more. Other than that, this usual things they believed recently departed, they're referencing usually within the first 12 months after the person has died, is typically preferred.
I mean,
Um,
if it's true, that just makes sense.
yeah,
You're not going to get as much, you don't get as much information from just a skeleton, even forensically, as you do from a whole body. So I don't know.
yeah.
Why wouldn't the like mental stuff resonate less or whatever?
hmm
Yeah, makes sense.
Um, so the one part, this is just from Wikipedia. It said that medieval necromancy practitioners believed that they could accomplish three things with their necromancy: that they could um, do will manipulation, illusions, and knowledge. So the will manipulation affects the mind and the will of another person, animal, or spirit. And
Okay.
they do this saying demons are summoned to cause various afflictions to others, to drive them mad, to inflame them to love or hatred, to gain their favor, or to constrain them to do or not to do some deed. Um,
Okay, so it's like I was
it's like
thinking at
the
first it was
outcome.
like, well, and it made me think of the Harry Potter curse that Im- impedimentia, whatever the one is where you like basically control the other person, like you're using them like a
Mm,
puppet. But then it sounds like this one's a little bit less severe than that. Like you're still influencing
yeah,
them, but they might think
it's not
it's
as
still them
direct.
in control. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, still creepy
Um,
though.
Yeah. They also believed in the illusions that involve reanimation of the dead or conjuring food, entertainment, or a mode of transportation.
Oh.
Uh, yeah.
An Uber.
And Ghost Uber. Knowledge is allegedly discovered when demons provide information about various things. This might involve identifying criminals, finding items, or revealing future events. Uh,
The precogs.
yeah.
Telling us what
Uh,
crimes are going to happen in Minority Report.
yeah. The act of performing medieval necromancy usually involved magic circles, conjurations, and sacrifices, as those shown in the Munich Manual of Demonic Magic,
Oh,
which is,
fun.
I didn't really look it up. I think who was the author? Maybe I mention it later. You can look it up. It's like a weird book. But basically, in that book, it said that circles are usually traced on the ground through cloth or parchment. Or sorry, circles are usually traced on the ground, though cloth or parchment were sometimes used. Various objects, shapes, symbols, and letters may be drawn or placed within that represent the mixture of Christian and occult ideas. And circles were usually believed to empower and protect what was contained within, including protecting the necromancer from the conjured demons, which we kind of talked about.
Oh, that's good.
Conjuration is the method of communicating with the demons to have them enter the physical world. These conjurations may be repeated in succession or repeated to different directions until the summoning is complete. So that's, I'd say, is like chanting kind of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they just kind of call it conjurations. So it maybe have to be repeated over and over again. Sacrifice was the payment for the summoning, though it may involve the flesh of a human being or animal. It could sometimes be as simple as offering a certain object. And instructions for obtaining these items were usually specific, describing the time, location, and method of gathering items for sacrifice could also play an important role in the ritual. So I kind of talked about like the different food objects that could be considered sacrifices.
Right, which wasn't just human sacrifice.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been like milk or honey, flour, even salt.
Yeah, salt does seem to come up a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like in all the rituals, or making a protective kind of salt circle or whatever. Getting all my lore from Supernatural, as it were. Don't break that salt line.
The next, there was kind of a collection of different kind of continuing different aspects of the ritual, but these ones, instead of Wikipedia, this was actually from ranker.com
Cool.
under their necromancy facts. I think the author was Jen Jeffers.
I like Ranker. Nice.
Yeah, they had a really good breakdown, actually. There was quite a bit of information that ended up coming from there. So, according to author Robert Masilo, in a typical ritual of necromancy, once a coffin was unsealed, the body would be removed and laid out with its head pointing east towards the rising sun, which I feel like I've heard before. I can't remember when we talked about that. Was that in like Death Omens or something?
I'm not sure. I've heard of a specific directional thing being important to burial, but at the moment I could not remember like what culture or whatever it comes from.
Yeah. And it said that the limbs could be positioned to be assuming the position of crucifixion. A small dish of burning wine, mastic, and sweet oil would then be placed near the right hand of the body to promote conjuration.
Of course, burn wine.
I guess so.
I mean, I know you can like
off the alcohol.
Right, I know you can like burn 40% alcohols, like liquors. Like, you know, you light sambuca on fire, whatever things that you do, that you light them on fire before you take a shot. But then I'm like, wine? I just thought it was too low of a percentage.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I have no idea.
I'm not going to try it. I don't want to waste my wine.
That's good. It said, of course, the incantation varied greatly between cultures, but all seemed to focus on commanding the spirit to move in the name of the deceased person and to answer the demands of the living. Continued on saying the best time to perform this was at midnight, especially if the night was filled with wind, rain, and lightning, because it was
Ooh.
believed that the spirits would show themselves more readily in stormy weather.
Will they? They just
Although,
like it.
right? Who doesn't love a stormy night?
I know.
Although practices varied from place to place, the majority of rituals involve lighting the scene with torches and creating a backdrop of deep contemplation and morbidity.
Oh, that sounds great.
Morbidity, right?
More morbidity. It's too cheerful in here.
Right? Wait, quick to the graveyard. Oh, perfect. Next sentence. For example, if a necromancer wanted to raise a corpse from the cemetery, magic circles could be drawn around the grave, and certain powerful plants were burned, including hemlock, mandrake, and opium. Assuming the ritual went according to plan, the body of the dead would slowly rise and dutifully answer the questions of the necromancer. The spirit would be rewarded for its... Yeah, I like this part, though. The spirit would be rewarded for its cooperation by promise of future peace, and the body would be burned or buried in quicklime afterward, so it could never be reanimated again. So that's
okay. Yeah, it is.
So been like, leave me alone!
Yeah, exactly. I was up for one Skype call and it's done now.
I got one every night.
My promise.
Yeah.
That was his ask me anything.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that's kind of all about the rituals. The next little section I have is just about, I originally had it entitled famous necromancer or like historical necromancers. So these are kind of like a few different people that they believe are necromancers and what they kind of revealed about what they did.
Wow.
It's not much, but I mean, confessions
I just have no idea who's gonna be on here. I'm just like, okay.
Right? Confessions by necromancers were rare, and those accused did not and those accused that did confess revealed a wide range of spellcasting and magical experimentation involved, and it's therefore difficult to determine the legitimacy of specific details. From what I kind of gathered, it said that practitioners were often able to utilize spells that included holy names or names from the Bible to avoid penalty, because any biblical references in such rituals would be considered not as a ritual but as a prayer rather than a spell. So like the necromancy rituals often contain biblical references and names to avoid getting punished or condemned by the church for performing these, because it was considered a prayer. Yeah.
It's like such a cop-out. This is not an ad. I don't know. I'm just like, what?
Right?
Okay. Sure.
So they said because of this, the necromancy that appears in the Munich manual that I kind of talked about what their ritual was, it said is the evolution of these theoretical understandings, and the main procedure in the manual uses the religious language and names alongside the demonic names, and that practitioners used and referenced scholarly materials and religious texts to help create their spells. So they kind of put the two together. I think that's why a lot of people that were practicing necromancy were the like clerics of the church and everything, even though it had been condemned.
Right. Like, I just kept making me think, well, of course it's gotta be, it's only educated people, so that narrows down the pool, and then even if it's
especially at that time,
it's still like people always have a hand in things that you don't really think, you're like, oh, they're the police or the church or whatever, and they shouldn't have anyone who's corrupt or doing anything. And then turns out always, yes, something's not so great.
Right.
Or, yeah.
From Wikipedia, one of their little examples was of John Salisbury.
Okay.
All I can think of is Salisbury steak.
Salisbury steak. There's a place called Salisbury in New
Salisbury.
Brunswick.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I always think of that and the steak. Yes.
Yeah.
So good.
So he's one of the first examples related by John Kiefer. Wow. Kiefer?
Does it rhyme? Sorry. At first it just sounded like it rhymed with Pikachu, and that just made me laugh.
Pikachu. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot
John
of E's.
Pikachu. Okay. Just kidding.
But there's a Parisian court record of 1323, so real old, that said, quote, a group who were plotting to invoke the demon Barak from inside a circle made from strips of cat skin were obviously participating in what the church would define as necromancy. That's all I have about that, but yeah, gross.
Were they trying to pass it off as a sewing circle? Oh my god.
No.
Cat skin. Oh.
Yeah, poor cat.
Woof. That's rough.
Another example. This one's maybe one of the more famous. Said perhaps the best known medieval necromancer was Johann Faust. Or Faust. He was a German.
F-A-U-S-T?
Yeah. Faust. He's a German alchemist. Yeah.
It sounds familiar-ish.
Right? That's what I thought when I saw it.
Yeah.
He's a German alchemist who dabbled in the occult, and in particular necromancy. Born during the early 1500s, the historical Faust was described as a magician, astrologer, and trickster. His supposed interactions...
Always a trickster.
Yeah. His supposed interactions with the dead made him the subject of plays and even operas. Christopher Marlowe, for example, made him the anti-hero of one of his plays called The Tragedy of Dr. Faustus.
Okay. Yeah. That is very familiar. They mentioned it a lot in the Discovery of Witches, because she is a witch that can time travel and goes back with her vampire boyfriend, who was part of this historical group of like writers that included like fucking guy who wrote that Faust thing, and then like Christopher Marlowe, that's it, or Kit Marlowe or whatever, and then like Shakespeare, and then like a couple other people. So yeah, it was nice. Yeah, that I do recognize that name a little bit. And then when you said that, I was like, okay, it all came into clicking together.
Yeah,
I get all my historical information from fiction novels, don't you know?
Right?
They've taught me everything.
Necromancy was especially popular in the Middle Ages and during the Renaissance. Its use and the perils that could happen like after you performed it were referenced in many works, such as the Faust stories by Christopher Marlowe, and those were co-written with Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. I don't know if I just nailed that or not, but I included it because his name is Wolfgang. I know you love that name.
Oh, it sounds good. Yeah. Beethoven? Sure. Yeah, no, it sounds very German or Austrian or whatever.
Yeah. And in the play by Goethe and Marlowe that has Faust in it, there's a witch called Eric, though. I don't know if I pronounce that right. I'll get into the story later. But Erchtho the Witch also appeared in Dante's Divine Comedy. Yeah, and I think she originally was in the Faust story. So she later appeared in Dante's Divine Comedy, and it's possible that many popular conceptions of necromancy came from this literary source. I think from the play. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one, in the story of Sextus Pompey from Lucan's epic, was written by a Roman poet. Sextus seeks out the help of Erchtho, a Thessalian, I think, witch, and regardless of the witch's reputation as dangerous and horrifying, Sextus is desperate to know the outcome of the Civil War before it happens, and goes to the graveyard where Erchtho lives, and the witch promises to help him. In one scene,
Erchtho is dead, right?
No, that's the witch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So in one scene, they are in the graveyard searching for a cadaver whose neck and lungs would still allow it to speak, which is, I think, why they went with the 12 months thing. In like resurrecting people. Yeah.
Right.
So when the witch finds one, she and Sextus bring the body into a cave where the witch prepares it. She empties it of the organs and fills the body with a potion. According to Lucan's story, it contains snake skin, hyena flesh, and the foam from rabid dogs.
Oh my god. Sure. You could have just given me any foam. I wouldn't have known any different.
Right?
This is not how from a rabid dog.
The spells know.
My dog foams, like, we take him for a walk and it's hot, and then he's got this little kind of we have to put like a head collar on him because otherwise he pulls super hard. So it's not like a muzzle, but it does go around his, like, and then, like, oh man, he'll like be foaming at the end of it. And like, he's just needs a drink. He's drooling. Yeah. He's not rabid.
Jeez.
He's fine.
Yeah. So the witch calls on Hermes, the guide of the dead, for help, and she calls on other supernatural powers that she's able to summon the spirit, and the soldier's body is reanimated. The body tells Sextus of the bleak civil war in the future and the inevitability of his own early death. And
cool.
Thanks. Despite this bad omen, Sextus is satisfied because he knows his own fate. He knows he's gonna die. This is the first literary mention of necromancy. The first literary mention of necromancy appeared in Homer's Odyssey when the powerful sorceress Circe traveled to the underworld with Odysseus to determine the success of his impending voyage home. And by raising the spirit of the prophet Tiresias, who was known for his clairvoyance, they hoped to gain insight into Odysseus' future. In this depiction of necromancy, Odysseus followed the rituals of his culture and made offerings to the underworld gods and the blood sacrifice of a sheep, which acted as a special drink for the ghosts, enabling them to speak. He spoke to several ghosts he spoke to several ghosts and was given warnings. Odysseus pandered to the dead as a way to ensure his future success and to gain insight into the realm where humans had no such visions. So Odysseus was desperate to ascertain his fate, no matter what the cost. That's all they really had about it. So it's like, I want to read this.
I mean, I've heard bits and pieces about him in different pop culture, and it's like, interesting.
necromancy is described in numerous parts of the Bible as well, mainly in the Old
Oh.
Testament. I haven't read any of it, so I can't comment.
That is, the Old Testament is kind of the juicy one.
Yeah.
Smiting
One of
people
these,
and
yeah, one of them was just a quick little thing that in Samuel, the story is told of how King Saul had the witch of Endor call the spirit of the prophet Samuel from the dead. Saul hoped to receive military advice from Samuel. Instead, Samuel told Saul that both he and his son would perish in the battle, and this prophecy came to pass the very next day.
damn.
I think another thing said that his son dies and then he kills himself or something. It's like, okay.
Oh shit. I mean,
Yeah.
that shit is usually pretty rough. Also, Endor. That's like a moon in Star Wars or something. Can't remember.
They
Somewhere
said the
where the
Witch of
Ewoks
Endor.
are.
They said the Witch
Oh,
of
okay.
Endor is also one of like the more famous necromancers, I guess.
Ooh. Okay.
Another thing just had a cool little quote that said in the notebooks of Leonardo da Vinci. It stated, quote, "Of all human opinions, that is to be reputed the most foolish, which deals with the belief in necromancy, the sister of alchemy, which gives birth to simple and natural things."
What?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds like you're throwing a lot of shade, alchemy
Yeah.
included. I feel
Yeah.
offended somehow. Take this right to heart.
Yeah.
But
Thinks it's
I get
foolish
it.
to
Like,
believe in necromancy.
I mean, yeah, science for a while was trying to come up, and also then you
Yeah.
get all these pseudosciences kind of trying to take precedent too, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it was hard. Yeah.
My last tiny little thing was just about, I guess, what's going on today in the world of necromancy that I could find.
Oh my
So it said,
gosh, nice.
yeah, not very much, unfortunately, but they did say that basically contemporary seances, channeling, and spiritualism do actually verge on necromancy when any sort of spirit is
Oh,
invoked in a way and asked to reveal future events or secret information. So that could be like Ouija
yes,
boards, tarot,
of
anything like that,
course.
where you're
Yeah,
asking
you're
for
always asking them like
information.
who they
Yeah.
are if they're a spirit.
Um,
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, if you're ever asking for information or future events, that is technically considered necromancy. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And not just divination. Well, if you're asking the spirits or
Yeah, for that
whatever.
like
Yeah.
specific like type of questioning, I guess. That's why I'm like, yeah,
Huh.
I'd say like necromancy is now kind of an umbrella term for a lot of stuff. Um
Sure, I can see some
so
overlap. Yeah.
yeah. Some cultures in the world do still practice necromancy. There's an Afro-Brazilian religion, uh,
Oh.
Quimbanda, uh,
Oh, Bimbanda.
which purports that there are several types of spirits, including a group of female spirits called the Pomba Giras and a group of male spirits called Exus, and they are able to call on either of these groups for aid in understanding, or I guess like answers.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay, okay. So sort of a patron saint sort of
Kind of.
deal, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get
Um
that. I like it.
it did note that basically necromancy today has gone away from like the brutality or desecration of burial sites. Instead, it's preferred to focus on working with the energy of the dead. Um
Ah.
and they may use things like throwing bones as a way to
Ooh.
communicate. That was one of the examples, but I'd say like
Well, that's
probably
similar to
tarot
rune
and
casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or tea leaf reading. You'd like kind of chucking
Yeah.
something and then looking at the pattern it may or may not create.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
Interesting.
more how it's practiced now, as
Okay.
opposed to actually like digging up bodies and things like that. Yeah,
Good.
but yeah, right. Please don't
That
desecrate
sounds
any
like
graves.
no, that sounds like too much back-breaking labor for me. I
Mm-hmm.
don't mind hanging out in a cemetery, but I don't I'm sure
Yeah.
just the hard labor and then the bad juju of trying to dig someone up. Nah,
Right?
I'm good.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's necromancy. I did not think. I always thought
Wow.
of just like the creepy zombies, like you said,
Yeah,
Pet Cemetery kind of vibe. Be careful what you wish for, whatever. But
sure.
it's never technically was really like that at all. It was more about asking questions and summoning them for that purpose
Cool.
than to have like a loved one back kind of thing, which I found
That's
interesting.
interesting. Yeah, a lot of things get painted with a bad brush in the media, like,
Yeah.
whether it's a direct campaign, like when they put out like Reefer Madness because hemp was such a good product that they didn't want people
Yeah.
to like be able to sell it or anything like it. Or like it's just like it just happens to become that way where it falls out of favor. Like spiritualism and
Yeah.
the using the Ouija boards and stuff like that. Man, that came really into favor and
Yeah.
popularity after like the First World War. Yeah, like 1930s, I think. Maybe that was even its second resurgence. I can't remember. But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting how
Contacting
things
loved
get,
ones.
yeah, and then they get a bad rap, or like you hear about voodoo, and then I think that one's a kind of a religion-ish more that gets kind of a bad rap just because people don't
Yeah.
know about it. So it's yeah, it's interesting. I really liked your
Mm-hmm.
lesson. It was
Yeah,
definitely
I
stuff I
learned a
didn't
lot.
know.
I was like going into it being like, oh, this is gonna be cool, like stuff, and we're gonna bring people back from the dead, and then it was like, oh, that's not what we're doing really at all. Okay. But
I know what this
yeah.
is about. Oh no, wait, there's more. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. At first, in my notes, it was like, "Oh, what is necromancy?" And then I had like written two types of necromancy: bring people back from the dead, and then communicating with the dead. And by the time I was done, there was literally nothing written under the bringing people back from the dead, and it was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "That just doesn't exist, really."
You're
Like,
like, okay, this is just movies or yeah, no, I know what
yeah,
you mean. It's good to that's you don't learn until you research or whatever. Yeah.
right, yeah,
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, we're taking necromancy and things back one at a time. It's like people are is like nowadays like Satanism isn't so bad and stuff, and I'm like, actually, I've heard that, yeah, but
yeah.
you had like the Satanic Panic and stuff, and then people just put things into one category or another of evil or not or black and white, and it's just not always the way.
Yeah, if you look at their, I don't know if they consider them commandments or whatever. If you look up what
Oh
their
yeah.
core values are, you'd be surprised with the fact that 99% of people would agree with every single one of the things on the list. Like, it's
Oh, I
insane.
sure. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Ugh.
Like, you'd
That's
be
another
like, yeah,
story, just getting into religions and crap. Ugh.
yeah.
We're more alike
Anyway.
than we are different, people. All of us.
Yes, that's what I like to focus on,
That's all
is,
I've got to say. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we'll
All
take a
right. Well, I've
break
got.
and we'll be back.
Yes. That sounds great because that was good, but now I have to pee.
Yeah, I need to get another drink and plug in my laptop because it's telling me it's gonna die.
Oh no, it's giving you.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, in the next segment, I will mispronounce William Butler Yeats' name several times as William Buster Yeats. My apologies. Anywho, it's time for my turn to do Occult October. Some
Yeah.
justice.
Good name. Yeah.
Yeah, occult.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a miscellaneous. Mine is. which was cool because I kind of had free reign to research once I knew yours was basically themed around the one thing of necromancy, which did turn out to be quite a big subject. But like for me, I was like, I can do anything else.
Yeah.
So like one of my favorite sites, Atlas Obscura, came in pretty clutch because I like ended up kind of just going onto there, or I googled Atlas Obscura occult or something like that, and then it just brought me to their whole section on anything that might be related to that, which some of had to do with alchemy, and I was like, oh, like I said, I was like, oh, I would love to go down there. It was like 9 places around the world that are, I don't know, have famous for alchemists or something, and I was like, but we've already done that on Patreon. I can't go down this rabbit hole. Must stick to the assignment. So the first one that I chose was it's in Kiev. Sorry, I know the pronunciation of that has come up with a lot lately in Ukraine.
Yeah.
It's called like Lysa Hora. I also didn't look up how to say things, so I apologize if terribly incorrect, but it looks fairly straightforward. I don't know. It is a site with a, quote, connection to the occult in Slavic tradition. And yeah, oh, I should have put pictures of this one. It did have some kind of funny looking statues, which I'll describe in just a second here. But also cool, the name means bald mountain, I guess.
Okay. Bald mountain.
I suppose that means the Lysa Hora. Yeah, bald mountain. And apparently on any of these so-called bald mountains, you can find witchcraft, satanic worship, and political executions. Those specifically have all happened at this one.
Okay. Political executions, I was not expecting to be on the list.
Yeah, it didn't fit with one of these things are not like the other.
Yeah.
All right. At the top of this mountain, it's also like a lovely, lush green forest and a great spot for picnics with wonderful views.
Of the political killers.
No. Okay, but yeah, of the valley and stuff. And then at the top, so there's like these tall red statues carved from trees, kind of like a one tree statue, like a totem pole might be. You would see it's all carved from one piece. They're very tall and straight. Yeah. Except that instead of having like a few different creatures or whatever depicted in one, these ones seem to be like each one is an angry wooden man with a sword down the front.
Okay.
Instead of it being a bunch of different like creatures. But like I should just send you the link. They do resemble totem poles, honestly.
Okay.
It's under Atlas Obscura. Oh, I would definitely put the things on our Instagram. Atlas Obscura Occult. Yes, it knew what I wanted because I've googled it so many times. Hang on, I can just send it to you real quick. That's the picture. Upload to the drive. Oh, save it in Yas Witches, sure. I just titled it Lysa because it's called the Lysa Hora. Lysa. Yeah, I think it should be up there.
Oh, I see it. I saw it when it refreshed. I was like, there it is. I'm trying to find it. Where'd it go?
Kind of totem pole-y.
Yeah.
like carved from a tree trunk or something.
They're cool. I like them.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that in other things, like, or even just out in the wilderness here and there. Like maybe there's been a tree that I've seen carved on a remote path. Like my mom would have this little book about all these different waterfalls in New Brunswick. So you're out there like looking, and then like so you see a face carved in a tree, or like maybe that's in Game of Thrones too. I don't remember.
Yeah, it looks cool. I like the detail in it. He's got like little furrowed eyebrows and a mustache. You can see his little mouth, and I see the sword.
Yeah. So I guess that's on this specific one, although there's a few different like places they call bald mountains around there, which is kind of cool. But yeah, these ones are very red. I should have put a picture up, but anyway. I'll put it up on our Instagram also. So witches would be known to gather there for their witches' Sabbath ceremonies, also known as Walpurgis Night, I guess. I don't know. So that would occur at these bald mountains or similar types of hills, and during those nights, the witches would be joined by crows, eagles, or just paranormal creatures.
Cool.
I know. I'm like, ooh, familiars maybe. Apparently, in the movie Fantasia, the Walt Disney animated feature, they featured a sequence known as the Night on Bald Mountain, with a demon unfurling his wings and summoning his horde of ghosts, hags, and harpies. I do love that word, unfurling. It's great. But apparently they are then cast into the mountain's fiery pit.
Oh,
that one's
not great.
That one's pretty intense. Its music leads to some dark scenes.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie, so...
Oh, really? Because it's just the one that's basically all music. Sort of classical music, and then Mickey Mouse, like, dressed as the wizard, and then there's, like, the brooms, mops and stuff, like, all dancing in sequence. You've probably seen clips of it.
Yeah, I know that part. Yeah, I'm sure I've seen it then.
Synchronized, household items moving. Okay, I found a short story, or whatever, about the Bald Mountains. The Bald Mountains' long history of occultism inspired Ukrainian writer Nikolai Gogol, I don't know, to use it as the setting for his short story St. John's Eve, in which the young lover, Petro, travels to Lysa Hora and is tempted by a man many believe to be the devil himself.
Ooh. Dun dun dun.
Do you see before you 3 hillocks? Bazavriuk, the corpse-like devil, asks Petro. There are a great many kinds of flowers upon them. May some power keep you from plucking even one of them. But as soon as the fern blossoms, seize it and look not round, no matter what may seem to be going on behind thee. When Petro arrives on the hill, he plucks a flower and is greeted by all manner of supernatural creatures, many of whom prove to be much less charming than the fairy folk he had imagined. In his story, Gogolo draws heavily on the ancient folklore surrounding Lysa Hora, stories in which this cruel peak is swathed in darkness. End quote. I just thought that was a cool little weird story that came with it. But also in 1872, the Russian army built a little wee fortress on the hill, but it was way too isolated and was eventually converted into a storehouse.
Oh, wow.
Too far away.
Yeah.
Okay, so then finally in I believe it was 6 to 7. It appears I've left off the 6, but I have 1900-7. I believe it was 1906, 1907. Good job. It was used for executions of political prisoners of the Tsarist regime, about 200 approximate executions in total.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so that's the Russian Tsar they're talking about at that time then. Before they ever called him a president or whatever. Although, anyway, we won't get into how Putin doesn't really act like he's just a president. More like he's a frickin' emperor or whatever.
Yeah.
Ugh, should be crazy right now. But we are never here to talk about that. We're here to get away from it.
Yeah, we talked about that a bit in the Ukrainian episode. So
yes, I don't mind highlighting certain countries as it comes up. Like at the beginning here, yeah, this first story came up in Kyiv or whatever. So, including the execution of Dmitry Bogrov, an anarchist and assassin of the Russian minister Pyotr Stolypin in 1911. At times over the years, this place has also been home to Roma refugees who in 2018 were actually attacked by far-right radicals who burned their tents. So that's kind of shitty.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, just supposed to be like a spiritual place, and then these sort of nomadic people, like Roma, I believe they're ones that we used to call gypsies, but that's not politically correct anymore.
Yeah.
So they were there, and these people are just like burning their tents, which is like, what the fuck? Come on.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing to do.
Oh yeah, it's like, geez. I don't know anything much more about that part, but I do know that now it is a nature reserve and it's part of the Fortress Museum area, and that pagans still go there today, and small carved wooden deities have been found throughout the park. Little wooden.
That's cute. I like that. If they look
Yeah.
anything like these carvings, that's really cool. I would have a whole chessboard of these guys. Like, it looks so cool.
It's a very cool red color, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like a cherry red. It's so red.
I bet it's supposed to be very powerful, yeah. Sorry, I could have possibly included. There was kind of a nice picture of this one too, but it's not that hard to find. Also, for listeners, you can go when I went looking for stuff. I don't know if this was before we were on air, but I was telling Kelsey I found a lot of stuff on Atlas Obscura. Basically Atlas Obscura occult. Yeah, and it was a lot of cool stuff came up. That's a really a good website. I know Ressa likes to use Atlas Obscura when she's actually traveling because it's not necessarily like dark history, but it's like kind of weird history, like of places you're going. Yeah. So they also had an article about the tomb of Dion Fortune. I do hope I'm saying that right. This person was born Violet Mary Firth in Glastonbury, England, and Dion Fortune was one of the most influential modern occultists in the world. But I had never heard of her.
Yeah, I haven't either.
No, clearly I don't know how to say it. Dion, I guess. She was a known magician, author, and occultist, and she got her start at an early age, taking an interest in all things esoteric, as they love to say this word a lot in so many of these articles. Just apparently meaning obscure and only understood or intended to be understood by a small group of people with secret knowledge. No big deal. Just esoteric.
Yeah. Secret societies.
Oh my gosh. Totally. Does remind me of listening to And That's Why We Drink, and Christine telling her co-host that, well, I'll basically talk you out of joining the Rosicrucians. And I was like, wait, why? They were kind of cool. And she was just like, you're just obsessed with every like secret society kind of thing. That was funny. Okay, so Dion Fortune, she started writing about the occult arts and co-founded the organization the Fraternity of the Inner Light, which I had never heard of.
I would possibly question because I don't know more about it. Maybe join. That's the only fraternity I want to join.
Fraternities aren't usually that cool.
Yeah.
Also, why would she's a woman, so I was surprised she would co-found something called the fraternity. But at that time, I think this is still early 1900s. I expect that's the best she can get.
Yeah.
Also, I did hear a hazing story earlier on a podcast that was about a university that had people, or the men's like aspiring football team or whatever, and so their hazing had to do with their dipped Oreo cookies in some hot sauce, and they had to put them between their butt cheeks and do like a foot race, kind of like some sort of a weird
Okay.
bachelor party.
What the
I
frick?
don't know, bridal shower. Just, I mean, better than some fraternity stuff than others, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, I guess eventually they got
Hopefully. Yeah.
reprimanded for it.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know how dangerous that is. I feel like it would hurt. The hot sauce would
Somebody got
hurt.
some burns. Yeah, and they were also
Yeah.
supposed to eat it if they didn't make it all the way to the finish line. So,
I mean, at least it was your own butt.
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess. Not
It was
somebody
on
else's
the
butt
latest.
Oreo.
Yeah. If you want to hear more, it was on the latest episode of well, they changed their name, but Live Laugh Larceny podcast as they are now.
Mm.
All right. Back to the show. No. So, Dion, her books and writings influenced many pagan groups that are still active today, like Wicca, which I thought was kind of cool.
Oh, wow.
Wikipedia. No. Yeah. Her assumed name, Dion Fortune, was derived from her motto, God, not Fortune. She had adopted this motto when she was initiated into the Victorian era occult fraternity, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, quote unquote. This I
Okay.
have heard of, believe it or not.
I was thinking somehow it sounded familiar.
I feel like you could have heard it on BuzzFeed Unsolved or something, because I heard about this group on And That's Why We Drink, and I think it was some sort of a multi-part series, because there's kind of a lot. There's a rabbit hole for sure, but yeah, it's one of those secret societies that's kind of got some funky but not super dark roots or anything. They're not like out sacrificing children or anything like that.
Yeah, that's good. Happy to hear
No,
that.
there's definitely fraternities that I've heard worse things about that like American presidents have been part of. You know what I mean? Where like they're like, oh yeah, these are so cool and above board, but then you're like, well then how come that one time they like handcuffed some people and had them like go out in the waves, like on the ocean, and like stuff that really endangers people's actual lives. It's like pretty scary.
Yeah, that's not safe. Not cool.
Yeah. I don't know why I just thought of that. I just had heard about it before, sorry. Okay, so this one, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, this group itself is derived from the Rosicrucians, which I always think of as the Rosy Christians, because it helps me remember what the name means. It comes up a lot on A Curse of Oak Island, because there's they have ties to the Knights Templar and stuff like that, so they usually come up there with theories of who left the treasure. But it says they're an adherent of a 17th and 18th century movement professing esoteric and occult wisdom with emphasis on mysticism and spiritual enlightenment. So they definitely down with the spooky shit.
Yeah, sounds fun.
Yeah. This person's most famous book was a magical realist book called The Sea Priestess, and she also published a nonfiction manuscript, The Mystical Kabbalah. You hear that a lot lately now too, Kabbalah, which I think ties more into Jewish mysticism, but
yeah.
didn't deep dive on that, so don't quote me on it. But another member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was one Mr. Aleister Crowley. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not surprised. You did watch Supernatural, where there's a major character called Crowley who's like probably named after him too. Although I don't know that his first name was Aleister, but whatever. He's like the leader of hell or whatever, Crossroads Demon or something for a long time. Yeah. Really good character. Pat does have a picture with that actor. He did go to one Comic-Con in like Calgary where he was there. Cool. Yeah. Then he has one with Gillian Anderson when he's like, he's almost worse than Keanu Reeves when he does the hand hover. Pat was like almost too scared to even stand next to her or touch her, so he's just like holding his hands like behind his back. He's standing beside Gillian Anderson. It's like, that's Gene Scully, man. It's so cute. I love it.
Yeah. Who doesn't love Gillian Anderson?
Like, she's so hot. Her. My sister got me into the X-Files, although it did freak me out as a small child. a little kid, I guess.
One day I'll watch it. I watched, I think, the first 12 episodes, and I just couldn't get over every episode basically, from what I can remember, ending and being like, we've been taken off the case. And then it just like ends. And it's like, shit, like fucking every episode, they're just like gonna get 80% of the way through and then be like, and then we have to leave town. It's like, damn it.
Yeah. I mean,
that
I won't
made
say
me
that
angry.
The theme doesn't continue, but they do get to investigate some stuff, I feel like, at least.
Yeah. I feel like that was just weighing down on me. I was just like, oh shit, man, like nothing's happening. They're just like starting each episode and then it just like abruptly ends and you're like, next week.
You are not allowed to investigate this. Yeah. Even though you're supposed to be the spooky segment. That is how we got the name for our gerbils, though, when we ended up with 2 male gerbils, so their names were Mulder, like Fox Mulder. But we couldn't name the other one Scully because he was male, so he was Skinner, like their boss. Walter Skinner.
That's cute.
Anyway, yeah. Mr. Crowley. He called himself the Beast 666. Don't you know?
Fun.
Right. And you know he has a song about him from Black Sabbath. Have you heard it?
No.
It's it's good actually. But it is pretty simple because the lyrics just have to do with Mr. Crowley. Bum, bum, bum. What goes on in your head? I had to look them up because I didn't know that. I knew the tune because I was like, I know it. It rocks. And it's like, Mr. Crowley, nah, 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 did you talk to the dead? Yeah. So, nice. Definitely is talking about him. It makes sense because that was by the British. They were a British band, Black Sabbath, and he was a British writer, mountaineer, rather, occultist and practitioner of magic, which he always spelled with a K, by the way. Magic.
Nice.
But apparently during his lifetime, he was quote-unquote denounced for his quote-unquote decadent behavior. I guess he liked to party, I don't know. But he nevertheless garnered a cult-like following after his death. He did come from actually a rich family. And I don't know, his background's kind of interesting. I didn't know a lot about it. His dad was an heir to a brewing fortune and also an evangelist for a religion called the Plymouth Brethren. Plymouth being Plymouth, England, like the original Plymouth, not the Plymouth Rock that we associate as North Americans with the one in America.
Okay.
I know there's one on the East Coast, but they
Yeah.
named it after the England one, like we
Okay.
do. How we have New York and Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where I'm from, for crying out loud. They're all named after British shit. But his dad was an evangelist for a religion called the Plymouth Brethren, which was a kind of sect of Christianity, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, so super religious. And Alistair was born Edward Alexander Crowley, and probably because of his dad's occupation, he formed a dislike of his father's religion and Christianity in general at a young age. So that probably formed some of his
He just rebels and he's
upbringing.
like, "Hey, Dad, I'm the Beast 666."
Like the beast.
Can you imagine?
Like, yeah. Well, that song, the only one who could ever teach me was the son of a preacher's man.
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, so he started going by Alistair in college, and his family wealth allowed him to travel the world and publish his own books also. So, good luck for him, even though he kind of denounces his father's religion.
Yeah. Shit.
But yeah, apparently it doesn't stop him from using the family money to do things like publish his first book, which was of poetry in 1898. Don't know what his poetry's like. I might be interested to see if it sucks ass.
Right.
Yeah, but he does have kind of interesting life. As a mountaineer, he went on several pioneering attempts to climb the second and third highest mountain in the world, which would be K2 and then Kanchenjunga, if I'm saying that right.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty cool to get to do.
Right? And does anyone ever say these other ones other than Everest day to day? I did not know their names. I was like, what is K2 short for? I'm like, nothing. It's just part of those mountains and it's just called K2.
Yeah. What's K1?
Yeah.
Or K3?
Apparently. I think because they're part of the something mountain range that started with K.
Okay.
The rumor had it, after Crowley advised against a risky route, an avalanche killed 4 of his co-climbers on one expedition. So he was apparently said to have ignored the survivors' cries for help. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. It seems a bit like a sinister rumor to me, but
I mean, I don't know what goes into rescuing people from avalanches and stuff, though, but you have to be pretty careful because I'm sure you can probably pretty easily trigger another one by going in that area again.
Oh, yeah. I listened to, like, that reminds me of a crazy episode of a podcast I listened to. I think it was Drinking the Kool-Aid, and they talked about, like, a case on the Mount Everest where a couple were hiking up or whatever, and one of them lost contact with the other, and so went out looking for them, and then presumably fell off the side of the cliff because no trace was found of that person. Yeah, I think the husband. And then, like, other people had come across, say that the other part of the couple, the wife, but just when you're up there so high, even if you do come across someone, it doesn't mean, like, you can attempt to give them your own, like, oxygen and stuff, but you might end, like, I think they had to basically try and help her, but she was like, I want to stay here for my husband and kind of thing, or something like that. And so then they had to try and leave her. Like, it's pretty crazy the things that happen out there, because you could see someone one day and be like, we want to help you, but we don't even have enough air or like packs or whatever. And it basically becomes like a question of like, you might have to leave someone and just know that you're just like leaving them to die. And those stories just like, oh, they haunt me.
Yeah, that's scary if people do that kind of stuff.
It is so risky. Oh, yeah.
But I guess, yeah, the air just gets so thin the higher you go. You need the
Yeah.
oxygen with
There's so many
you.
bodies that are just left there because people they can't come and retrieve them because it'd be too dangerous. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
wild.
It's creepy, right? Anyway, sorry. Yeah, so apparently he was a mountaineer, and that's just that made me think of. But he also apparently has some mystical experiences rather in Egypt in 1904, and then Crowley would incorporate his or Egyptian deities and also eventually yoga into his practices. And then he wrote his next book, which was called The Book of Law.
Oh,
Ooh.
wow.
I know. I'm like, I've heard you and some of this and yoga and Egypt, but all of this together is so weird.
Yeah.
um, I don't know why, but I thought it was interesting that it was called a prose poem, this book, because like I thought those were two different things, prose versus poetry. Um, it said it's basically a non-poem with elements of poetry like rhythm or pattern structure, and I was like, cool. um, he claimed it had been dictated to him by a being called Awas, and he wrote within
I've
it,
heard that
"Do what."
before.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was gonna say I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
said.
Hmm.
Um, he wrote something like, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law."
Okay. Sure.
Right? It's a little different than "do unto others what you'll have done to you." It just sounds a little bit more anarchist than that. This was not apparently a new concept. It had first appeared in a work by French author Francois Rabelais 300 years earlier. He did take it, though, and run with it. Did Crowley. He made it the basis for his new religion, which was called uh, Thelema, I guess. It's literally Thelma with an extra E. Thelema. But apparently it's the Greek word for will. So I guess that's where he
Oh,
got it
okay.
from. Yeah. Um, I thought it was interesting that his rival in the group that he was in, the probably the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, his rival was the poet William Buster Yeats, who wrote The Lake Isle of Innisfree,
Hmm.
which I love Outlander. She likes to quote it in that. But
Oh, okay.
also, yeah, it is something that we just talked about him earlier. Leonard Nimoy's character on The Fringe, William Bell, he
Yeah.
quotes this poem when he's talking to Walter about living in the new alternate universe or whatever. He's like,
Yeah.
why don't I deserve to just live where I am? Because I think he was I don't know, he was already dead or something. You could
Yeah.
remind me, but it is a cool poem. It's real short and kind of pretty. I do have it here. It's
Ooh.
just, yeah. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin build there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnight's all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening's full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for always night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavements gray, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Um, And that's William Buster Yeats, 1865 to 1939.
Wow.
That's cute, though. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Crowley, I just love calling him Crowley. It just makes me think of Supernatural a little bit, but
it did before, but now all I think of is from Good Omens.
Oh, really?
Because then he's Crowley, but then he becomes, or no, he was Crawley, and then he becomes Crowley.
One of the main guys does? Because I didn't watch it. I know I haven't finished it yet, but you can spoil me. Like Michael Sheen's character, or
no, David Tennant's.
Oh,
yeah, his name's he goes so by good. Crowley. But when he starts out, he's Crawley, but he's a snake, and he's like, it was two. What does he say? It was two slithers on the ground or something. So really? He's like, yeah, it's Crowley now.
Oh my god.
Because he keeps,
I love it.
He changes his name like 6 times, and it's just like, yeah.
So good. I gotta watch the frickin' Doctor Who, because I know he's the doctor, and that makes me want to watch it, because he's amazing.
When I worked at HMV, just everybody that came in and asked about Doctor Who was like the worst person you've ever met in your life. So I just...
Oh no!
I don't know. It's so much, like... I don't know. It's like
a toxic fandom.
Yeah, it can be really toxic, and there's just so much between all like the episodes, then the TV movies, then like all that stuff. There's literally
a long time,
and then some of them are like lost things, like you can't even watch it anymore. So it's just the people that have ever like happened to see it when it was on air, like specific things that like know that, and nobody else knows it, and they're really like pissy about people not knowing it. It's like fucking it's like lost. Like it's like a lost tape. Like fucking
a lost tape.
Yeah.
This is very esoteric knowledge. No. But that's so it is kind of weird though. And I know that yeah, shut up. I talk about Outlander a lot, but the author was influenced. She watched Doctor Who and the time traveling. And there was a character that was like Jamie fucking something Scottish sounding, and she was like, I got influenced by watching that show, and then she like wrote Outlander, and not in a way of I wrote something so that nobody could ever film it. Where I was like reading something the other day where it was like, oh yeah, basically that's why he wrote Game of Thrones, because he wrote it like, I'm gonna write something that nobody can ever film because I'm tired of working on TV. Blah. And I was like, no. But like sometimes people just write something a little bit more free because they're like, maybe I won't write something that I think someone's gonna adapt into a show, because I'll just write it like I want to write it. You know?
Yeah, that's a good way to write. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I love those books. All right. So to finish out my little mini lesson on Aleister Crowley. Did I say I must have said he started a group book. Sorry, now I've got the abbreviation for it, and I'm like, but AA. He started a group. He started a little group where the AA was short for the Latin words for Silver Star. It was not short for Alcoholics Anonymous. That's basically all you need to know. I was trying to find the origin, but it's not important. So he lived in the U.S. during the First World War. He was writing for the pro-German paper, which was called The Fatherland. Yikes. And then he moved to Sicily, Italy, where he called his home, which is a small villa, now in very poor condition, the Abbey of Thelema, and he wrote what is called The Diary of a Drug Fiend, which was sort of fiction-ish. Yeah. Made me think of
the Diary of a Drug Fiend.
Yeah, it's like, is it like the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas?
Yeah. It's intense.
I bet yeah, it's probably pretty disjointed.
Yeah.
But then following the death of one of his young followers in Italy, allegedly after participating in sacrilegious rituals, the British press started calling him the most wicked man in the world.
Oh, well.
So, well, someone did die, so then people got their hacks up, I guess. It's not a good look. I did not deep dive into the death. So that's very questionable if it's a young person dying for like apparently no reason, It's like, okay. Yeah. Apparently there was a trial and he was then branded a black magician and essentially a pervert by society, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of his downfall, but like he was still credited with, I noted, influencing the development of things like Wicca, something called Discordianism, and also regrettably Scientology.
Oh shit.
But I think your writings, you can't really decide what they influence. Wicca, Scientology,
that's true.
those are two very different things. Yeah. He was, I wrote, practically chased out of Italy by an angry mob in 1923. After the trial of that, after the death of the young man. And now nearly destitute, he went crawling back to England with his tail somewhat between his legs. And his last notable quote-unquote achievement was the book of, my favorite, the Book of Thoth in 1944.
Oh,
In it, he interpreted a new tarot deck called the Thoth, designed in collaboration with artist Lady Frida Harris. Tarot! Thoth! These are like so many callbacks to all other episodes. I just don't like pronouncing that word. You can buy it on Amazon. It says he reinterpreted the traditional 78-card tarot deck to adhere to Crowley's own philosophies, as well as esoteric knowledge of everything from science to alchemy to astrology and the Kabbalah.
Okay.
However, he did die penniless in an English rooming house. That reminds me of like Tesla or someone. Yeah. Like you're so influential or smart or whatever, but then you just like spend all your money and burn all your bridges until like you just die alone. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it happens. I mean,
yeah. It does. But he is immortalized. The Beatles did feature him on their Sgt. Pepper album cover. He's in the crowd, I guess.
Is he?
Apparently. That's what it said to me. I was like, I know you're a Beatles fan. But also this one I had heard before, and that is that Led Zeppelin guitarist Jimmy Page bought Crowley's former home on Loch Ness in Scotland. Oh. So this place is called Bloskeen House, and it was inhabited by Crowley from 1899 to 1913, and it's now being restored soon.
Oh, he's really tiny on the album cover. I guess I've never really looked hard
in
at
the crowd of cover. Like weird people and stuff. Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, it's just like one of the crowd on that album.
Yeah, he's one of the black and white guys, kind of on the left side. That it's just basically photoshopped in.
There's not that many pictures of him. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I'll have to look at it again to see which picture it is because he looks really mean in some of them.
I'm pretty sure it's that picture. He just kind of looks stern, like in the crowd.
Yeah.
Him and his bald head.
Oh, so bald. Yeah. Okay. But speaking of Mr. Crowley's song, there is a bridge in England. By the way, they did not like that sentence on what is it? Microsoft Word or whatever.
Oh,
We should
no.
stick to one sentence subject. Fuck off.
Yeah.
It had to do with what we were talking about. But yes, there's a bridge in England dedicated to the very rock band Black Sabbath, you know, Ozzy Osbourne and whatever. And there's a bench and a bridge that pay tribute to Birmingham's favorite heavy rock band, it said. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I've never seen them live, but I watched the Osbournes, or the one where they looked at paranormal stuff. Watched that when we were in Vegas. That was fun. The Osbournes believe.
I was never into the Osbournes. I watched Gene Simmons'
show.
Family Jewels. We watched that. Me and my mom loved the Gene Simmons one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I like when they talk about him on Family Guy and they talked about his actual name, and she's like, "Oh, Herbert," and like says this like super different name than Gene Simmons. She's like, "Oh yeah, I knew him in high school. We slept together." And they're all like, "Lois," but you're like, yeah, they have to have a life before they're this famous name. Yeah, that's always fun.
I just liked it when they always showed his office, and his office was just filled with, I think he has like a thing that you can basically make a Kiss like memorabilia into absolutely anything as long as he gets one of them. Like you literally have to send him one, but you can do fucking anything with their like picture. So he has like literally everything. He has like one of them, and he has them like in display cases in his office in his house. So cool. They used to always show it, and he'd like go through and they'd be like, yeah, here's like Kiss condoms, here's some lollipops, here's like Pez dispensers, here's like fucking everything.
Actually, that sounds familiar. I think Chris Jericho did an interview with him, and he was like, I showed up like professional because I always am, but it was like 9:30 in the morning, and he's like, and Gene was like decked out with like his rings and his sunglasses and everything.
Yeah,
and you're just like, that is the persona. Like, you do not drop the persona. That's amazing.
His terrible hair.
Like, yeah, and then like you say, like all the merch and stuff.
Yeah, it was cool.
I think I remember hearing about that he had like just tons of stuff. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. It was like 100,000 items or something. Right? Like, and then we always thought
they're
it was
all
cool.
about you and your group.
Yeah. We thought it was cool that the daughter, is it Sophie or Sophia? I can't remember. She and the mom had a chalet or whatever in the mountains here in Alberta. So they used to like in the winter and stuff, it'd be like, you're in Jasper, and you'd be like, oh sweet, like they're just chilling in Jasper this episode. You'd be like, oh cool.
And why wouldn't they? I mean, you can get some beautiful views in mountain villas in Europe, but you could probably get them a hell of a lot cheaper in Canada, and we do have some lovely mountain views. Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, we liked watching that one. It was before the whole cheating scandal. I mean, they acknowledged it in the episodes we watched.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember him.
I'm sure they all have, really. Most of those big musicians. Yeah.
They did like a lie detector thing, and he passed the lie detector test. Basically, being like, I wasn't having affairs, and then it basically comes out that he had affairs for like decades or whatever. And
well, those things,
hundreds.
Law enforcement knows those things are pretty useless. Freaking lie detector test, come on.
Well, they did it like on a radio show. Yeah, they did it like on a radio show, like during the series. Yeah, it was stupid. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact. The Black Sabbath, the band, is named after a horror flick of the same name starring Boris Karloff, which I did not know. But he famously played Frankenstein's monster, if you didn't know. Boris Karloff.
Oh, okay. I was like, the name sounds familiar. I don't know why.
Right? He's like, OG monster dude. They are made up of members Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, fun, and Bill Ward. it was the late 60s when they started, and there was kind of all that peace and love and sort of rather cheerful rock, like in comparison, say, like the Beatles or the Beach
Yeah.
Boys or something.
Yeah.
And then here comes their like antidote, Black Sabbath. They're hard and heavy and very dark. And did you hear the story about when Ozzy famously once bit the head off of a bat on stage?
Oh, yeah.
Although, in his defense, as I looked it up to remind myself, he said that night in Des Moines, someone threw a live bat, and he said, I thought it was a rubber bat. I picked it up, put it in my mouth, crunched down, bit into it, being the clown that I am. So he didn't even know it was real. But also,
I think
fun
I'd
fact
heard
that
about that before. Yeah, about him
it's
not
one of those things that
knowing.
like makes the rounds. Yeah. But you had to feel bad. I was like, I would not want that to be maybe the one thing that I'm known for. That the 40-year anniversary of that was this year, apparently.
Oh, wow.
They said in January. I do remember reading in some of the Chris Jericho's books, though, that like I think Sharon Osbourne was also quite the slave driver on tour or whatever. She'd be like, now you're all getting high because then Ozzy will get high. Just she's been touring with him long enough, I'm sure. Like they've been married forever.
Yeah.
But anyway, some of it's funny because I can just picture them getting in trouble with Sharon. So yeah, even one of their songs, so the city they came from, Birmingham, had been through a lot of trauma over the years with the Blitz and World War II and some of that stuff. So obviously people that live in England are aware of that. But then the War Pigs song was apparently about the Vietnam War, and it compares militarists with devil worshippers.
Oh, wow.
Lovely. Yeah. And it also opens with a sinister sounding musical interval known as the Devil's Tritone, which I did not
Okay.
know.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know what that
that's
is.
a fun name. I don't know. I'm like, I can just mostly hear their intro to Iron Man if I think about it hard enough, because
Yeah.
that one's pretty significant and sticks to my mind too. So heavy metal continued to spread over the world, and in 2019, a joint effort between the West Side Business Improvement District, the Canal River Trust, and the Birmingham City Council birthed this idea to honor them with a bridge. So it's made by a Dubai-based architect and Black Sabbath superfan, Mohammed Osama, who advocated for the bench, and Egyptian artist Tarek Abelkaway, and quote, adorned with etchings of the individual band members' faces and their signatures. It's actually quite cute. I did
Nice.
not picture up there, but it is on the Atlas Obscura website under Occult if anyone's interested. Or maybe we'll put them on the website because Kelsey always puts lovely pictures on our website.
Yeah.
And well, finally, there is apparently a whole museum. That's what it's called, a museum. A museum obscurum. Now all I can think of Obscurious from the Harry Potter series, so I'm probably saying it wrong. But yeah, that's in Nykøbing, Denmark. And I just thought this was kind of cool. It's just a little bit. It's a secret collection of the strange and occult that was rediscovered in a forgotten room of an old house, which belonged to Cornelius S.C. Roder, a wealthy collector of the obscure and bizarre, and he hid it behind a secret entrance to his home.
Cool.
I know. I want one.
I wish my house was big enough to have secret rooms in it.
Goals in life. We're gonna have to build one.
Yeah. Damn it.
I know. It sounds like a pain.
I want secret closets everywhere. Ooh. 15 closets, so I don't have to get rid of
closets.
Yeah. Walk-in closets so with got like the middle island thing that you can like pull out. Oh my god. It's got like big enough that you can have chairs and like chaise lounge in your fucking walk-in closet. Yes.
Yeah, we technically have a walk-in closet, but it's still so tiny that it can't fit all of Pat's shirts. All right, just to close this one out, his collection includes just a vast, there's a vampire-themed collection, there's stuffed platypuses, and the skull of a forest child. And on the website, you can see a little fairy skeleton, like with the little wings, and it's inside of a little book with hinges, kind of like when we went to Vegas and they served me that drink and you had to pull the little flask out of the little book, the hollow book, and then put it in the drink. It's very cute.
And we're like, do we get to keep the flask?
I know, I wanted to keep all of it. I put like, for any mystery or any game or fuck, what am I trying to say? For fans that watch the Gravity Falls, that this place is like the mystery shack, because in that show that's what he has. He just has like a jackalope and like just different weird stuff. A lot of his stuff is fake, but anyway, we love watching it as a freaking family, so I just had to put that in there, that this place is the mystery shack.
Yeah.
But some of it might be real. You just don't know.
Exactly. You don't know until it's proven.
No, there's no way to know. You can't test it against the DNA of a known living merman or unicorn or...
Right? Yeah.
I was listening to some podcast the other day where I think accidentally they were like, wait, isn't a jackalope a real thing? And the other one was like, no. Which made me laugh a little bit. But hey, we have jackrabbits, so they're pretty big.
Yeah.
They just don't have antlers.
There was a band that I liked in middle school, or I guess junior high when I was in it. It was junior high. It was like a female-led band, and it was called Jackalope.
Ooh. Yeah. Ooh, I like the name.
I liked
Cryptid.
Yeah, there's a few of their songs. I went a few years ago and like watched the music video, so I was like, what the fuck was I doing in like middle school? That it was like, yes, let's put this on my iPod, like, or I guess at that time my like MP3 player.
Oh my god, those things.
Yeah, so weird.
I used those iPods. Pat bought me one, and I was like, I have to buy the music for this, and somehow never got into it.
Yeah. Stupid iTunes.
Stupid things you have to pay for one at a time. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not spending $1.29 per song. Get out of here.
No. Especially nowadays, you can buy everything on YouTube. Oh my god, the thing, like, the video stopped for a minute and looked at you just chug that, like,
oh shit.
Fuck that!
Yeah.
And then she, like, took a big swig.
Now it's empty.
Ah, I see. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thank you for staying with us during that. It was good. I liked it.
Yes. Excited. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Yes. We see you next week for the one we still have to record.
Yeah.
Stabbing crimes.
Yeah. We're gonna... I don't know. Everybody's gonna get stabbed. Let's see.
Shit, there's a lot of those to choose from, that's for sure.
Mine, yeah, pretty gnarly.
Oh, okay. I can't wait. I don't know much. I tried to stay away from it, so I want to be spoiler free.
I had heard it before, and then when I started looking up lists, I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay, gotta cover it, you know.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
All right, well, till next time, thank you for listening, and keep it cryptic. Bye.
Bye. This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Cobia Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.